Hey, man, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ronik Patel. I, I should say, I used to run an agency. It's just been a few weeks, so I think that putting that used to would be a bit tough. But I run an agency called UnlimitedWP that just got merged, acquired with another agency called E2M. So I've been in the agency works for about 8 years now. Unlimited WP that got acquired. I started a little over 4 years ago with a special mission that we only do white label and that to productizing the white label services. So I got inspired from looking at the design pickle and other people who in design space for productizing their service. And I wasn't finding running the day-to-day agency that challenging. I gotta try this. At the time, nobody was doing it, so we were one of the first one in the world to have said, "Let's productize a WordPress service for digital agencies," and that's exactly what we did and we scale quite comfortably in last 4 years. Yep, that's me.
Awesome. And how did you get started?
With unlimited WP or in just general in the agency space?
Yeah, how'd you get started in the agency space?
By accident. I had after doing my master's in entrepreneurship, I did a startup which failed. So then I could not take a risk of doing in another startup. So I had to get into some business which is no money, which is agency. You can start. You don't really need money to start it, and I had to make sure that it works right. And I thought agency is probably the easiest thing to do in that sense, and you learn over the time, right? It's not as easy, yes, but you can quite comfortably you can build it a lifestyle business around, and that's what I did. It took about 4 years, and that's what I was saying earlier in the intro. Is that was quite comfortable, and but I wasn't in it for a lifestyle type of business. I wanted to build a business that one day you can sell it, and that's why I was constantly looking for like how do I do something more than just being an agency. And I seek the help from other mentors, agency gurus. Heard a lot of people in the space seeing what was happening, and then what I was saying, looking at the design pickle model and saying, okay, this could be interesting, where I could actually scale a business. Not that you can't scale an agency, but uh, scaling it in the sense almost like if it was a product and not a service. So that's my story.
What what was the hardest thing looking back that you know now that you could have told yourself to speed up time? You know, everyone listening to the podcast and why they listen to stories, they always want to, at the end of the day, they want to save time and they want to create more freedom in their life to do that. So, what's something that you realize now that you didn't realize back then?
Yeah, I think getting a mentor, being part of some agency group. I did that for my third year. That if I were to do it again, I would do that way earlier. Because after being part of that group, it took another couple of years to actually learn things and implement it because it doesn't happen overnight. So I could have stayed a couple of years then. So that's what the first thing I would say. And then the second after that, it was freeing up yourself and not having entire business rely on you and actually building systems and processing and processes and marketing funnels. And that too probably started late. I could have started that couple of years earlier. So all in all, my 8 years of journey, I would have ended up here in 4 years. Just if I had, joined some group and be, and I'm not saying just join it, like actually be part of it, be actively try to learn it, and whatever you're learning, try to implement it. And I'll tell you, things that I was learning, I tried to implement everything. Probably that wasn't a good idea, and 70% of the things didn't stick because you're not wholly committed. But there was those gold nugget ideas that did implemented, and those results were that ultimately led me to not only free up my time, but build a business that you really love working in it.
Yeah, you know, what I find a lot of times is when you join the right community, that community can see the things you might not be able to see and give you the confidence in order to be like, oh, okay, or give you almost that direction going, hey, Ronik, go try this. And then you go execute it. And like you said, a ton of stuff that you try won't ever work, especially if you try to do it the exact way other people are doing it because it's for their particular style of business and how they're all set up. But if you can kind of take little bits and cues and not and joining, just joining, like I'm so glad you mentioned that, like just joining is not going to get you results. You you have to show up, you have to participate, you have to ask. My biggest frustration I always tell everybody is, and especially when we onboard new members, I always go to them. I said, look, when you go through challenges, you have to promise us you will reach out and let us know so we have the ability to help you. If you just hide in the corner and think you can fix it by yourself, you're doing yourself disjustice. Like, why not have 70 amazing, smart people try to help you out? Like, it
Yeah.
does us.
Yeah. Because it's not that by joining those communities, you'll get to know something that you can't know out there. I mean, just like channels like yours, if you look at your videos, it's probably the same material that you get in the community, but it's not just about that material, right? It's about being active and trying to implement it. If it doesn't work out, as you said, reaching out and said, "Hey, Jason, I tried what you said, it didn't work," right? And just talking to other agency members who have done it, uh, listening to them, asking to them could really get you good results.
What was the reason why you sold?
That's it's multiple reasons. I think there's not a one reason. Uh, Good timing, good offer. Those were the triggering points, right? But what I was saying earlier, I wanted to build something to build to sell. Uh, I went to Babson. I did this master's in entrepreneurship, and one of the professors there, I still remember his name, Bob Stinger, he used to say, like, the day you start your business, you need to plan your exit, right? And every move you're making, you think about exit, which I did not do it early on when I was running a traditional agency. But with the Unlimited WP, it was from the day one. Just that when would that happen, at what value would that happen, that wasn't decided. And I guess now it just felt like that it's a good time. One reason being that, another is when I started the agency journey, which is very late, because I hear this podcast and hang out with the agency owners, and you say, "Oh, when did you get started?" And there are people who started before the bubble .com, right? And I'm like, "Oh, wow, I started 2015, way, way, way late than this the other guy." So I was much late into the game, but still had that mindset that I could catch up with this veterans in the industry. And keeping always that in mind, that okay, when would that exit happen, how do I need to structure the agency to happen, which all things were going great. I saw when I started out, it was a mobile apps time. I didn't get into it. I'm like, yeah, now that doesn't make sense. And then 18, 19 crypto time. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting into that. The AI one though, lately that was I don't know, it hit some nerves in me. I'm like, no, this is the sort of the wave that I do want to ride it. I've been doing agency for about 8 years now, so maybe it's a time for change. So that also plays the great reason is just getting more into the AI space. So, and for that time is the question, right? I can't run a full time agency and also think about maybe doing something in the AI space. So, multiple reasons like that.
What are you guys thinking about doing in the AI space?
So, we're building a product, and naturally we're like, let's build it for agency. This is the one market that we know, and we know it well. We know how to work with agency. We us being an agency, we know the pain points. And last year, when I tried to roll out AI in the entire team, we built few boards. Hey, you're a WordPress developer board, and you do this and that. It was great, but the team weren't really adapting to it. It's still not everyone. As an owner, of course, you think productivity and efficiency, and you want to go all in. But for team, they don't really have that same incentive. Some are also fearful too. But most people in our space, I think they understand that you just get to adapt with it. But still, they weren't really adopting it. So that's the idea we are playing around with, is in a agency teams, if you wanted to roll out an AI for your efficiency, productivity, those type of gains. So not generic, those content creation, just plain and simple, something like that, but more collaborative tool that actually helps you increase the efficiency, productivity of your agency. Something like that we are working on.
Why do you think teams And why do you think some of your team had pushback for really not adopting AI yet?
Um, some members just that fear that is generally out there that it's going to replace me, but I wouldn't say that was the main reason. Another thing is just not knowing how to use it. I think, people like, I'm assuming that we read a lot and we are saying, oh, this prompt engineering and there's and this and that, and you're constantly even making your AI game better. Those team members aren't. So when we build this crappy version of a team that everybody has to use ChatGPT within that tool, and we are connected with the ChatGPT APIs, so we can actually see what the interactions that they are doing, right? And when I looked at those interactions, man, they did not know even the basic prompt engineering, and then they would come and say, "Well, I tried it; it didn't work," right? And then you'd see somebody is asking this complex jQuery issue on some side, and he's getting a perfect two-line code that solves the problem, which is better than a Stack Overflow solution, which would be a page worth of code, right? And the others, for whatever reason, they couldn't up their prompt engineering game. So something as simple as that is just not knowing how to work with it. That was probably the biggest the problem. And we did trainings, but you know how that goes. You do
Yeah,
a couple of meetings and you tell them do this and that. That doesn't really materialize unless if the leaders or the managers has some systematic way to deploy it, where a lot of the things are done in built in a way that the agency space needs it. If it's done so, then you're not relying on people to figure things out on their own because the platform is figuring that out for you.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, AI is pretty fascinating. I mean, we're not even scratching the surface where it's going to be next year.
Yeah.
I literally just bought the domain name agencymastery.ai. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I'm going to use it. Right? Like,
Yeah.
you might. And I don't know if you're anything like me. Like, you just buy domain names. Like, I have
I,
a
I,
thousand domain names. I'm like, why do I have all these damn things?
yeah. When we were going through this, because I've got another company where we do this pet projects, and some domains are bought from that, some from the UWP. And when we were going through this M&A, you have to clean that up, right? And that's when you realize how many domains you have, and like, oh damn, all these domains. Why did we buy it from this account? Now we can migrate all those over because those are just fun domains that bought it years ago and probably not doing with them
Yeah, it's,
anytime soon.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
But
Awesome.
the
Well,
AI space is very interesting. I've been diving deep into it. We got a couple of machine learning developers in team now, and we're building stuff and breaking it and seeing the limits and, just where the hype is. We can tell, well, this is clearly an hype. We're doing even our custom things and it doesn't work. And where some things are just even better than what we expected that it will play out. So very interesting time to be in.
very cool. Awesome. Well, Ronik, this has been a pleasure to chat with you. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Uh, Maybe about like if you want to sell, what to do about it, right? Like if you're thinking about selling, that's
Yeah, go
the
for it. Yeah,
the
walk
few
us through
people I've
that.
been talking about that because people ask me about like how, and I'm like, yeah, well, my mindset was there, but outside of that mindset is just preparing for it. Uh, Talking, don't wait until you're ready to sell and say, hey, who am I going to sell to? Find out, make a list of. There's not going to be hundreds of people who are going to buy you, right? It's going to be that small list. Make that list, do intro with those people, see what they're looking for in the buyout. For us, for example, surprisingly, I didn't know what the weightage will go into the clients we have, the revenue we have versus the team we have, the brand we have, the marketing channels that we have built, right? Where the weightage would go, I probably wouldn't have given weightage as much on the team, right? That hey, and learning that for the other person at that point of time, that was one of the most important things, right? So if you're known that ahead of the time, you could work accordingly. So that's what I would say is if you are anybody's ever looking to sell, just make that short list right now. And if you're listening to this podcast, make that intro to that prospective buyer of yours.
Yeah, and you don't even need to make the intro of going, I want to sell to you. It's
Yeah,
just,
no.
how can we work together? How can we help each other out? The company that ultimately wound up buying us, we were strategic partners with them for
Yeah.
a little bit. And so we got to know each other that way. And then they were like, okay. And then, we sold. So But always, I think it's always good to set the agency up for an exit, even if you don't exit, because when you set it up for an exit, you're setting it up for creating freedom for you and
Yes.
creating a cash cow for you as well. And then a lot of times I actually talk people out of selling because I'm like, you're making this amount of money and not working that much. What am I missing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, that's right. I'm like, well, and then some people, if they know exactly what they want to do with after, I'm like, sell the damn thing.
Yeah, if you have figured out what's next, and that's a good time. And something you said about the creating that freedom, right? I didn't know. Like I heard this coaches and other people talk about it, and until you actually create that freedom, and then you realize how awesome that is. So even you prepare your company for a sell, and in an indirect way, you're working to get that freedom, right? Because step one is probably freeing yourself and not having business dependent on you. So even if it doesn't exist, you at least achieve that. And that's just an amazing way to run your business.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Well, this has been a pleasure. Make sure all of you listening, make sure you go check out e2msolutions.com. They have great services and help out all of our mastermind members, and they're actually even a mastermind member. So make sure you guys go check them out. And until next time, have a swank day.